Hello and welcome. I'm Deepika. I'm the head of broadcast at the National School of Journalism, and it's not every day that you get to see me on camera doing an interview, and today is an extra special day, and the reason for that is because firstly it's our annual fest, Slant 2017, as I just said, and sitting with me today is a Bangalore boy who did his education in Bangalore but went on to take his passion to a global stage. He's a 2015 Grammy winner for his new age music album, Shanti Samsara, the world music for environmental consciousness. So with me is Ricky Kedge, and he's one among a handful of Indian artists who've really won Grammys. So Ricky, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have to share this mic, unfortunately. But I think the most impressive part about what you're doing besides the music, because obviously Ricky is passionate about humanitarian issues, and one of those issues is climate change. And what a wonderful time to talk about climate change. I mean, with a new president in the United States, with this entire debate on climate change, what is your take on what's happening globally on this?
I think the issue about the American election is very distracting, in the sense that I believe that we have to look inwards at our own country, simply because we've got a population of 1.3 billion people, and that's like the second most populated country in the world. And very soon we are going to be overtaking China, because we're growing exponentially in terms of population. And at the same time, it's very powerful to think about the fact that 1/3 of our population, that is 350 million people, do not have electricity. And that compounded by the fact that we've got the second highest coal reserves in the world. So we can actually damage the environment in such a huge way, and we've got such a huge population that we have to look at our own country to actually make a difference and stop looking at the American election. Because as Indians, we've got the power to actually make a change, and we have to look at our own country. So I feel that the American election is extremely distracting because they've never ever cared about the environment in the past, and I don't think they're going to suddenly start caring about it even with a change in the election, or even if the election outcome was different, because they are a country which is completely dependent on fossil fuels, whereas we can change and we can make a difference.
Right, and actually that also brings me to the point of you using your music as a platform to take out this message, and you've done some really impressive videos which just a couple of minutes ago we got to see, and I think that is absolutely telling a message. How important is it for artists and for people in a position like yourself to really take out that message? Because like you said, America has its own issues to deal with, and we have our own over here, and you are definitely doing one of those messages. So how important is it, that message, for you?
I would say that, when I started off my career in music, I used to do a lot of advertising commercials and jingles. So that's how I used to make my money. And I was pretty successful at doing that. In a very short period, I did about 3,000 of them. So I was doing a whole lot of them. And then that is when it dawned on me that companies like, multinational companies like Google, Toyota, Microsoft, all these companies are spending a huge amount of money to make jingles to drive a message of sales. So basically, they understand that music is such a powerful language to drive a message of sales, and it's not only powerful to drive that message, but also music reaches deep into the consciousness of a person. We always remember the jingles that we listened to when we were very small, like, the Bajaj jingle and, all these other ones, like, this Surya bulbs and tubes and all that stuff. So we remember all these jingles. Now, the thing is that, so music is not only a very powerful language of communication, but also a very powerful language to retain a message into somebody's head. So this is what dawned on me. And I realized that if these multinational companies are spending such a huge amount of money in creating the music and on airing it, then then I should actually be making music on a positive message. For a positive message, making music that is an extension of my beliefs, my thoughts, my philosophies, and spread that awareness through my music. So that is when I decided that all my music has to have a message. And if it does not have a message, it's just shallow music. So it has to be about me trying to communicate to an audience. So when I make my music, it's always a thought, it's an idea. And then I start with that. And then after that, it's a struggle to try to communicate that through the language of music, such that the end listener understands what I'm trying to say. So music is considered to be a universal language, and everybody says that, and it's almost cliche to say that. But it is a universal language, because if you cannot get through to a person through any language or any cultural, if you are on opposing lines of any cultural background, like, for example, for my latest album, I collaborated with an Algerian violin player. I could not speak the same language as him. He was from a completely different cultural background. Even sign language would not work because our reference points were completely different in communication. Our political backgrounds were absolutely different. Our religions were completely different. But when I would play the piano, he was able to play the violin immediately along with me in unison.
So music is basically a language that you don't really need to know, but if you just connect on that and feel it. And you did say that you struggled. You did have a struggle. What was that struggle that you had?
No, the struggle is basically about using music as a communicative language. It's just that it's just a creative struggle that everybody has, but it always ends up in being it always ends up into fruition. So basically, I would say that if any creative person does not struggle with every single idea and every single creation of theirs, then they're just not doing a good job. They're in a comfort zone. So you have to struggle with every single thing that you do.
Right, and I think given how music is really evolving, and we just had the Grammys this past weekend, and it's got obviously a reputation for all the wrong reasons. But besides that, I think music is really something that connects with even the young, and it's really not a very great number of Indian artists that go as global as you have. Why is that in India? Do you think we can do something to change that?
In India, I guess the problem is about the mainstream. The mainstream is really, really large in India. That is mainstream as in, the film industries, whether it is Bollywood or whether it is a local film industry like the Tamil, Telugu or the Punjabi film industry. The thing about it is that right now music is so heavily ingrained within the film industry that when I talk to somebody and I tell them that I'm a composer, the first question anybody asks me is that which movie have you composed music for? Because that is how ingrained it is. And I do not do films specifically for the same reason, because I want my music to be about my beliefs, my personality, and my thoughts, and giving a positive message rather than what a director asks me to do or what a hero has to say to a heroine, So that kind of a thing. And I want my music to be reflective of me as a person. Like, for example, if you look at a person like Vishal Datlani from Vishal Shekhar, he's a very political person, a great guy. I know him as a very good friend, and from his heart, he's a complete rocker. He was involved with the Aam Aadmi Party for a very long time. But then if you look at him, his most famous song of his life is Sheila Ki Jawani. So that does not represent him as a personality at all, and that's not even the kind of music that he himself listens to. So why are people in India, all across India, why are people in India making music that they themselves do not listen to? So I think it's important that you make music that you yourself listen to, because music is an art. You look at a person like Picasso, it's a ridiculous example, but a person like Picasso, when he's making a new painting, he's not going to be visiting all the art galleries around and say that, okay, what is everybody doing, let me try and do something similar. He's going to make something that is truly from his heart. So that's what. So music needs to be treated as an art form. It has to be from the heart, and only then musicians in India will reach a global scale.
And so to give people a little bit of context, Ricky, you released your album at the COP summit in Paris in the presence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the French President Francois Hollande, as well as the General Secretary. So that's like a really big honor. And I think that also gave you a global platform. What did you learn from that conference? What did you really take away from there for your music and that's influencing your work?
It just reiterated everything that I thought about music being a powerful language and stuff, because I realized that music is not just a powerful language in this particular case, but also the personalities that came together in making the album and the people I brought together. People started taking all these voices very seriously. That that there is this huge concern in this world when it comes to climate change. There are countries that are going completely underwater. There are countries that are disappearing. There are people from these countries who are becoming climate refugees. And then when you put it across beautifully, like for example, I've recently been conferred a professorship with the National Institute of Advanced Studies, that is from the IISc. So one thing that I've learned from them is that scientists come up with the data, but the artists are the ones who have to interpret that data beautifully and communicate that to the general public. So that's what I tell in all my talks in universities and in colleges, that you scientists come up with the data and collaborate with artists such that the artists will be able to interpret this data beautifully. Because all my data on Kiribati, on climate change, and on countries going underwater is all scientific data, which comes from the United Nations, which comes from scientists who I meet on a regular basis. But at the same time, what I do is that I try to put that together in the language of music and through an artistic form, such that people are not bored while listening to it, and it reaches straight into their consciousness.
It's actually interesting that you said that, because I think a lot of students and a lot of parents are very skeptical to let their children pursue fields other than the mainstream fields that we have. And you are qualified as a dentist, but you never went and practiced it. You really took into your passion. And you earlier mentioned that fear is really what motivates parents to drive their children children. And we have youngsters sitting in our studios today who are listening to this. And I really think the message you really are trying to say is use passion to be your motivator. So for the young people watching this, as well as the young people in the studio, what is that message to really forge that path? Because you have reached a point of success, a point of recognition, and that was not an easy path. So tell us how that path happened.
So I would say that my appeal would be more to parents. Parents. Actually, this is not just an India problem. It's very prevalent in India, but it's more of a global problem too. About parents trying to decide what their children have to do. So that's a problem that I've seen all over the world, but it's very prevalent and it's very widely seen in India. Now the thing is that I would say that parents need to concentrate more on spreading values to their children, and ensuring their children have got values like honesty, discipline, hard work, sincerity, dedication. These are the values that they need to ensure that it passes on to their children, rather than telling them to be a doctor or an engineer or a dentist or a MBA graduate or whatever. Because if the values are inbuilt into their children, then they can be successful at doing whatever they want to do. I've always believed that if you've got a career in the arts, you have to work much more harder than a traditional career path. So when I started off into music, when I finished off my dentistry, when I started off my music, I realized that if you are an engineer, then you're going to be going to office from 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. You're going to be doing your assignments. You're going to be having these discussions. You're going to do what your boss tells you to do and stuff like that. But when you're your own boss, it's very difficult to discipline yourself. So it's very important to have that same level of dedication or even more. So I used to enter my studio every day at 7:30 in the morning, whether I had work or no work, whether it was a late night or not. And I used to stay there till dinner time, whether I had work or no work, because I realized that I need to have that discipline, and only if I have that discipline, I'll be successful at doing what I want to do. So discipline is even more important in a non-traditional career path.
Okay, so discipline is definitely a key word here, and I think you can never really grow old of being disciplined, right? You're constantly learning how to be disciplined about your work. I am going to ask a few questions that our students who are participating today at SLAN 2017 have written down. I think we have a student from Christ University who says, what's your take on Bollywood's mainstream? Okay, we've discussed this, but what's your take on Bollywood's mainstream way of reinventing old songs by just adding raps into it? Like it's the only mantra they've been working with. Okay, this is by Trisha Sharma from Christ University.
Of course, when you talk about remixes, that's like a far way ahead, like in the sense that for me, I feel that musicians need to create music from the heart. They need to create music that is reflective of their own personality. In the West, if you look at a singer like Adele, who won a whole lot of Grammys 2 nights back, when she breaks up with someone, she writes a whole album on that. When she falls in love, she writes a whole album on that. When U2 the band, when they feel politically strong about something, they write an album on that. So basically, in the West, everybody is making music from the heart. They're making music that is reflective of their own personality. You won't find Adele making a heavy metal song. You won't find Adele making a Bollywood remix. Yeah. So that needs to be reflected in our Indian music. The thing about remix is that remixes to me is just a commercial way of doing things, because the familiarity with the tune is already there. So, so basically that effort of trying to make the tune familiar by repeatedly playing it on radio and television is not necessary for the particular producer. So that's why it's just a way of getting a song faster to an audience and getting the audience to remember that song a little faster, because at the end of the day, all music in Bollywood and in India is for promoting a film. They're not music for music's sake. It is music which has been created to sell tickets for a movie. So basically that, because music is basically used as a marketing tool for the film industry. So basically nobody really cares about the actual quality of the artistic quality of music. But the production quality is amazing, but nobody cares about the artistic quality of music. Everybody just cares about how do we make a hit song. So the easiest way to make a hit song is basically doing a remix, because the tune is already familiar. So basically all that you have to do is that play the song and everybody immediately remember it, and there's a nostalgia value to it.
But don't you think that there's also like this divide between, commercial mainstream music, which obviously is played over the airways, it's played on television, we're constantly influenced to that. And then there are artists like yourself. And we don't get to listen to this type of music on a radio. We have to really go search for it. Do you feel like there is a gap when it comes to that kind of marketing of your kind of work?
In India, yes, definitely. Because I'll give you an example. When I won the Grammy for my album, what happened was that it was not even released in India, and and it was number one on the Billboard charts. It was number one on the Billboard charts for 12 weeks. It was extremely successful. It was one of the highest selling instrumental albums in America and in a lot of other countries. But in India, it was not played at all on radio. So after I won the Grammy, a couple of radio stations, mainstream radio stations, contacted me, and they said that that we would love to play your music now that you won the Grammy. I said yes, I would love for my music to play in India because my music is primarily Indian in nature. It's Hindustani classical. So then I told them, all right, send me whatever forms I need to fill up, and they sent me the forms, and the forms under the essential fields to fill up said actor, actress, and director. So that is a problem, So that is a problem. So then I called them up and I said that, what do I fill up? Because mine's an independent album. It's not part of a film. How do I fill up an actor, actress, and director? So basically, that is the problem in India. That it's so deeply ingrained with film industry that people are not listening to music. People are watching music. In India, that is the thing. And also music has become a free commodity in India, where what's happened is that people always consider music to be free. All of my friends, everybody who I know, have got a huge music collection. Like they've got all the latest songs, they've got everything, the older songs, everything. But nobody in India even remembers when it was the last time they actually purchased music. So that is the problem. It's considered to be a free commodity over here. So these are the basic issues that contribute to, contributing to the failure of independent music in India.
Okay, I think St. Joseph's has a lot of questions, okay. So describe your experience releasing your music album during the United Nations Climate Change Conference.
Of course, it was a great experience to see our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Francois Hollande, releasing it on that big stage. Unfortunately, I could not go for the conference because the Paris attacks had just happened before that. It had happened just 2 weeks before that, so it was a dangerous situation, so I could not go over there. So I saw it on television. Of course, I had tears in my eyes because because the first thought that came to my mind is that this is why I've become a musician, to make a difference and to make a difference through my music. So it was a beautiful experience to see that happening.
Okay, one more question. Which music trust do you currently fund? Okay.
I don't fund any trust, but I'm a trustee on a beautiful music trust. It's known as Majoli Music Trust. It's something that was started by my music teacher. So it's basically a trust which strives to improve the level of music education in India. Number one, and number two is that they also see, in India we do not have any royalty systems. So basically, if a musician for some reason, because of an infirmity or because of old age, if they stop playing music, their income is completely cut off. Everywhere else in the world, in foreign countries, there is a huge amount of royalties that you can make on your existing music. In India, that just does not exist. So what the trust does is that they recognize such musicians who have lost their income because of a handicap or infirmity or old age, and they give them a pension fund for the rest of their lives. So that is something that I'm not actually funding, but I'm supporting.
Okay, that's good knowledge to know as well. I think another question that students have written is, what's your life like as a music composer? Everyone's curious.
I guess it's a very busy lifestyle because of the amount of traveling that I do. So I spend a lot of time in various different countries and also a lot of time on the plane. So I would say that in a year of maybe 12 months, I spend maybe a month on the plane. So it's quite a lifestyle and a lot of hard work because I would say that. See, if you put it into perspective, I do not consider it to be actually hard work or working simply because I'm doing the only thing that I know how to do, and I'm doing something that I'm absolutely passionate about. So even when I'm not in the studio, I'm constantly thinking about music. When I'm walking on the street, I'm thinking of a beat, and I'm walking in a beat. Yeah. So basically, I'm living and breathing music. So there is no time when I'm actually switching off. Even when I'm eating, I'm thinking about music. I'm thinking about my next composition. I'm thinking about climate change. I'm thinking about how do I spread more awareness on it. So this has become my life, So in the sense that for me, working would be actually eating. In the sense that taking a break from my music and then going and eating a meal, it's almost like, oh, now I have to spend some time and I have to eat a meal, or now I have to go to sleep. So basically that's my life.
So, Ricky, what's keeping you busy these days? What's your latest project? What are you working on?
So basically, I'm working on a couple of things, lots of things actually. Most importantly is that I'm continuing to promote Shanti Samsara. So I'm doing concerts all over the world for that. I'm also writing for a symphony orchestra for Shanti Samsara to perform with symphony orchestras all over the world. So basically, this is what I'm working on, and continuing to spread awareness, continuing to spread awareness through my concerts, through my music, through my recordings, lots of collaborations. So basically, that's what I'm up to.
And I think, we do have to wrap it up as well because you do have a busy day ahead. But I did want to sort of end on the note of a lot of young students are here today at the college who are also watching us. And they are perhaps, your youngest fans perhaps as well. What is your message to the young people out there who are, looking to, forge paths, maybe besides engineering and medicine or law for that fact? You were once their age and you were once at that crossroad. How would you motivate or what would you tell them?
I guess I would, at that particular age, I would just tell them to have fun doing what they're doing, and at the same time, always remember that you have to be the absolute best at what you're doing, because there is no place for anything below excellence in this world. So you have to be excellent at what you're doing. You have to be the best at what you're doing, and you cannot have you have to create your art without any excuses. That if you create a piece of art, like you create a song, for example. You cannot have excuses that, I did not get enough education to do it and that's why it's this bad. It just has to be the best, that's all. Whatever you do, you have to be the absolute best at it, and that's the only way you're going to survive in a field in the arts. So you have to be the best at it, and you also have to have the objectivity to understand whether you can carry this forward or not. And you will, I guess at a certain age, you will definitely realize whether you have it in you to carry it forward or not, or you don't have it in you to carry it forward or not. If you're fearful, then forget about it. If your passion is so strong that against all odds you want to do it, then it is definitely for you.
Absolutely. And I think today we live in an age where technology has given us such great opportunities that, we can really pull out all the stops and do the best that you can. And Ricky, thank you so much. I'm sure you have like a really busy life. And for you to be here today is a great honor for us at NSOJ. And I think the students have had a wonderful time. Thank you for everyone who's watched us on Facebook Live. I think that's right there. And a big wave out and shout out to everyone watching us. Thank you. Thank you so much. Continue watching Facebook today because we're going to be posting updates through the day on Slant 2017. And thanks again for joining us for this conversation, Ricky.
Absolute pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.